Alright, so what I have here is the shifter cable bracket from the Ranger. This bolts onto the transmission and holds the shifter cable. I can show you what that looks like. So it just bolts on the side of the transmission and then holds this cable in place. So what I'm going to be working on today is modifying this. You can see it's a little bit kind of bent and mangled. I was already working on it a little bit. I didn't want to have to cut it and re-weld it, but I think that's what I'm going to do to make it fit a little bit better. So I think I'm going to start with just chopping it off here, cutting off the section that is going to hold the cable, and then I'll probably cut off this section here so I can use this mounting hole. I'll mock it up, tack it, and then weld it in where I want it. Alright, so here's the pieces all cut up. Took some of the paint off so I can do some welding on it. So now I'll just have the tab on there. Probably have to put it at a little bit of an angle, I think, so it'll mount on the transmission properly, but we'll figure that out. Alright, so I'm inside the truck now. I got the bracket pretty much kind of finished and test mounted. And run it through the gears quick. It's a little hard to pull, the first one, but just go through. And the needle actually lines up pretty good with all the gears when I go through, and it does click all the way back into park, so that works pretty good. Here's the bracket pretty much done. I do want to throw some paint stuff on there yet, but it does go back over here. That angle's a little bit steep. I think that's why it's a little bit hard to pull at first, because it's got to pull it up, but I'll get over it. So I went to the junkyard the other day and I picked up throttle cable, serpentine belt. This thing is actually really nice. There's like no cracks in the top side, just like normal little bit on the ribs, but this thing is like really nice, good condition, so that was nice. Picked up 2 coolant hoses. I'm gonna try to make them work, so we'll see how well that goes. The throttle cable, this will be nice because the original throttle cable from the truck had this little guy on there, and that's not gonna work for what I'm trying to do. It needs to wrap around and then hook in down here. So here the throttle cable is hooked up now. Little end piece hooks in and then the cable wraps around. This locks into the bracket. Comes up around the top, and then I'll probably want to route it underneath the cables or something later on, but it should work for now. But just to compare the piece that goes through the firewall, this is the new one, this is the one that came out. So like it's the exact same size. I should be able to just take this, and with any luck, it'll just clip right in there. Yep, perfect. So this piece is going to come up all the way out and through. And then lock in. And I'm surprised that works as well as it does, because one's from a Chevy, one's from a Ford. But it may need some adjustment on it, but it works okay. So the throttle cable was a little bit too long, so I just slotted a bolt that actually is the right size to run through the pedal lever, and put a washer and a nut on there, and then tightened it down until it clamped down on the cable. So now that's in the right spot. When I push down on the pedal, it pulls the cable appropriately. Okay, so I got a bunch of stuff done today, so I'm going to try to go through as complete of a list as possible and talk about everything that I did. So got the coolant hoses hooked up, put the serpentine belt back on, power steering pump is on, alternator's on and hooked up and charging. Did put the coolant reservoir back in. I still need to get a little fitting. I'm probably going to get a fitting for inside the coolant hose to put the steam vent tube to. I guess that's the the right way to do it. Right now I just got it run into the reservoir, but I don't know. Apparently that's not how it's supposed to be from my research, but whatever. What else did I do? Got the throttle cable bracket all done up. So I did test the power steering a little bit with a little bit of fluid in it, and it seemed like it was working pretty well. All I did was fill up this hose with fluid, and it ran fine until I shut it off. Then it like puked shit all over the place. So I got power steering fluid all over now, so that's exciting. I ran aground to here just to get it to run. Still got to finalize a lot of the wiring yet. I'm a little bit disappointed with my planning, I guess, of this whole thing, because I did just buy not too long ago like O2 sensor bungs and O2 sensors. I talked about that in a previous video, but now I'm going to have to take this exhaust manifold off to weld the bungs in, and that's going to be a pain in the ass because this manifold doesn't come out unless the engine is out or the steering shaft is out. So I'm going to have to go back through and rip all that crap out again, so I'm not too happy about that. What else did I do today? Yeah, I filled it with water. Like I said, I just used water, didn't use coolant. I got about 4 gallons in there. I'm not thinking that that's enough. So I'm a little bit concerned about the cooling capacity. I did notice that there's a lot of things that are in the harness that I'm going to have to change, like the check engine light, the vehicle speed signal, all that other stuff. I routed it over so it's by the computer side instead of on this side, and not knowing ahead of time that all of those things go right to this plug. So there's like 4 wires probably that I'm gonna have to run back through the harness over to this section, and engine coolant temp is one of them, along with my oil pressure signal wires. Those are going to a different spot. They're not coming over here, and I'm gonna do this section here to run them to the gauges. Other than that, the only other thing I think I did was the shifter linkage. Finalize that, and that works out pretty good. Another thing I just did real quick was hook up the brake booster line. I was able to find the little fitting that goes back here at the junkyard that I needed. This originally came with just a plug, because the original LQ4, the newer Chevy Express vans, have a hydraulic system here instead of a vacuum system for the booster. It's all hydraulic driven for the brake system. So took the plug out, was able to find the fitting, and then plumbed that over. Now that's done. So yeah, guys, not really a whole lot of big stuff getting done, but a lot of little stuff getting done right now. So I feel like I knocked out a lot of different little things today. Everything's getting closer and closer, so I feel like the small things are making, big progress. And like I said, I'm a little bit disappointed about having to pull the exhaust manifolds back out. That's going to be annoying, but aside from the O2 sensors, really just need to button up the wiring, hook up the wiring to the transmission, test that, and then hook up like an intake system with the MAF. So I did pick up a mass airflow sensor from the junkyard the other day, but now I need to figure out like a coupling system and an intake system for that to make that work, and we should be ready to go. I do want to throw some exhaust on it, so I'll probably just pick up some little glass packs or something like that from somewhere for pretty cheap and throw those on just to quiet it down a little bit, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Oh, it is 4th of July weekend right now, so 4th of July is coming up in a couple days, so enjoy some fireworks.
It looks like a dancing white fireball. show what did I